You asked for it, someone else asked for it, a bunch of people asked for it, and finally, I'm doing it. Split side pants, y'all. It is time. These have been on the list for ages. Literally, I have a list of split side variations that I want to try, and trousers were third on that list, above both dresses and pinafores. And yet here we are, almost a year after my first attempt, just now getting to it. I love self-made lists because you only have to follow them when you want. Much deserving of morning scratches. Oh yeah. How dare you stop scratching? How dare? Oh, I am not the only YouTuber who has been eyeing these adjustable pantaloons though. Are we having emotions? Ash from over on Ash LG did a great video of their exploration of the 18th century petticoat style skirt for modern times. So much good info on how you can make one. And now we are partnering up to give pants a try together, while apart, because we live very, very far apart. First things first, we sat down to chat about our plans together, and it was quite a long conversation, so here is a very chopped up version. Hi, it's so nice to meet you.
Hi, same. After a long time, it's nice to finally see you face to face.
I know, my emails with collaborations always start so far ahead because of all the filming in advance and stuff. There's reasons that I haven't done trousers yet, and I'm interested to hear if you have a better plan for this. Which side do you put on top?
So, speaking of hakama, so I have these, which they're not quite exactly right, but that is as close as I could do with my, it's been 15 years since I did a kimono sewing class. So the backside has longer ties so that you can wrap around, but it is because you can just drop the back and then use the toilet.
Makes a lot of sense. I don't know, I think I'm gonna make two for this video, and I kind of want to do one each way just to test is it that annoying to have to undo both sides in order to go to the bathroom, or does it not matter that much? Because I know for me, all of these traditional ones, the big thing that they're lacking is the pockets. So that's my priority, is getting attached pockets in there, and that's what makes the front going on last better or easier.
I actually hadn't thought about the pockets in a lot of detail, but that makes a lot of sense because I'm the same. If I'm gonna wear trousers, I need pockets. That's definitely something I want to try and figure out, because I think that if I was going to just make a skirt and put a crotch in it, that would work completely fine. But I like my trousers a little bit more fitted, so I'm trying to figure out how I can do something that's a little bit more, not quite as full at the top and not quite as full in the leg, and that definitely you won't be able to shove an extra detachable pocket under there.
I think that's what's the main difference in my head about split side versus wrap, especially when you get to pants. I've seen the wrap pants all over the place. They're actually kind of having a resurgence. They're big and they're super cute, but to me, you still have that split all the way down the side.
Yeah.
And if you're active, you're moving around, you're sitting in weird positions, is that gonna fall open and just feel weird? And that was the great thing about the split side skirts, was that your hem is still connected. And that's what I'd love to translate to the pants.
I'm definitely thinking that I want to have a go at something like a very simplified version of hakama, and big wide legs, and it can be very sort of relaxed and comfortable. But yeah, my real goal is to try and figure out how I can do something that's more fitted and I think figuring out that which side goes on top and where the pockets go, and how do you make sure that there's no shirt throat or anything else showing through the side slits. Yeah. That's going to be the real tricky bit.
But I like this because we're both kind of going for that first same thing. So I'm really interested to see how both of ours will end up differing. But just go with the simple. We know this will work. I think my second version, I'm still not going to do super fitted, but I definitely do also want to make them more fitted. I'm excited to see what we come up with.
Same. I'm really looking forward to this one. I feel like it's been in the works for a while.
Right.
And it's going to be really nice to finally have something.
We shall reconvene at some point.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Shall we promenade to the fabric closet? Wow, it was such a long trip. So as I discussed with Ash, I'm gonna be making 2 pairs, starting with a really simple pair because it's basically just my original split side skirt with a crotch, but it might also be annoying to wear on a daily basis because the back panel goes on first and the front panel goes over it, meaning you have to undo all of that in order to potty. I want something super flowy and drapey for these because I want to make them super full, but I don't want sort of the giant feel that I got from my silver pants, but also preferably not see-through because I really don't want to have to line these. Hi! I mean, therein lies the trouble, because most of what I have that's really drapey is see-through. Okay, here's the deal. I was not going to use this fabric. Yes, I'm hiding a whole pile of fabric from you over here, because the video about getting this fabric comes out next week. But I really want to use this fabric. So come back next week to see where I got it and why. That's what they call a teaser. I mean, I have a ton of it. It is a gorgeous color. Let's just continue that orchid theme I've been on lately. And while it is see-through-ish, I think in the large quantity that I want these legs to have, it will not be. Perfect! For the second pair, I want to experiment more with different elements, so the design might just end up being a bit more conglomerative. Overall, I just want a more structured fabric for this. A bit thicker, a bit more stable, but still not heavy. What if I used these gray fabrics that I got at my last big remainders haul? The question is, do I have enough? Because they're all kind of different colors. These 2 are the same. I don't know, that might actually look like very nice and formal and stuff. To the cutting table. Oh, and we have entered LA's rainy season, which is a thing we apparently have now. So it's dark and dreary. Pardon the lighting if it's a little bit weird in this whole video. I'm gonna worry about that later, because we're starting with the easy one. Of course we are. And guess what? I pre-washed this fabric a long time ago. I know, who am I? Now it really needs to be ironed. All right, you know what? We'll pretend it's being ironed while I talk about design. So basic concept, I wanna do a half circle on each leg. I would like the front of the legs to just have one pleat right in the center. And then just so that I don't have to be as precise on measuring, I might put like a very slight amount of gathering into the back 2 panels. We're gonna do those normal pockets that are attached to the back panel. And then for the waistband, I don't wanna do lacing on this. To make it easier, to make it quicker, to make it more simple, I just wanna do the back one tying on. I'm thinking what I'll do is a 2-inch tall waistband on the back panel that stops where those pockets stop. And then I will sew in a very light ribbon to tie in the front that really will not create like a big knot right there. I also want to put belt loops onto the back waistband on the sides here and then maybe one in the back. And this is something I've never done before, but just as a way to even better connect the back and front panels. Like, you don't have to use them, but they're there to keep it all together if you want them, I guess. Because then on the front panel, I want sashes like normal. But since this is a pretty thin and light fabric, I think I wanna do my front waistband like 5 or maybe even 6 inches tall, so that when you put the sash through the belt loops, it'll cinch it all down and you'll get this nice ruched effect on the front waistband. But then when you tie that bow, you'll still have this nice big bow and this big sash. That's the plan. And oh look, the fabric is magically ironed. Y'all ever want to warm up in the winter without turning on the heater? Just go iron 8 yards of fabric. It already looks like I did not iron it at all. Oh well. Okay, let's do the thing. Let's do the thing with voiceover, yeah? Let's start with some measurements. I put a piece of elastic around my waist to make sure I'm starting at the same place every time, and then I already know my waist is 32 and my hips are 42, so we are trying to figure out those crotch measurements. Back to front, I have a total of, coincidentally, 32. And then if I split that right in the center, I've got 15 inches on the front and 17 inches in the back due to the booty. Taking some straight measurements so I can see like where the actual inward curve starts, I'm 13 inches in the front and 14 inches in the back, which gives me basically 5 horizontal inches in between, 2 in the front and 3 in the back. Yeah? The lovely thing about big, swooshy, loose-fitting pants like this is that you don't need the crotch to fit super tightly. In fact, to avoid all sorts of wedgies, you may prefer for it to specifically not fit too tightly. So we can relax on getting those measurements completely perfect. Did I momentarily take off the pants I was wearing to measure the crotch seam? Yes, I did. Was it helpful? Not really. I'm dealing with circles here, as usual. So my normal circle skirt radius is 5 inches, but I want that box pleat on both legs in the front. I can make the pleat however big I want, which lets me be a little imprecise, as I so enjoy. But let's assume that each box pleat is 2 inches deep. There are 2 hidden layers to a box pleat, which means each side will require an extra 4 inches of fabric. That's 8 inches per leg. We have to pretend we are doing it on the back for now, so we get the proper radius, so that's 8 times 4, and we have another magic 32. Basically, I've just doubled my waist measurement for these pleats, which means I can just double my radius to a nice round 10. That's just for the front 2 quarter circles though. The back panels don't need to be nearly as big because there is no pleat. A light amount of gathering means I can lightly not care about precision, so I'm going to up my waist radius to 8 inches back there. Now to add the crotch. Based on those squared off measurements I took, I'm going to make my front crotch indentation 2 inches deep, and I'll up it to 14 inches long since I don't want it to be tight. Then I can just freehand that curve based on some drawings that I've seen. In the back, I want it 3 inches deep, and I'll up it to 15 inches long, and the curve is a little less straight and a little more curvy to accommodate the butt, theoretically. As usual. I currently do not know if any of this will work. Pant length is gonna be 46 inches, which might be on the longish side for me, but who knows, I may wanna wear heels with these, so better safe than sorry. Y'all, I love wearing drapey fabrics, but oh my goodness, the cutting out process is a mess for giant pieces like this. I attempted to triangulate my front panels so I could fit them on the table, and that was a whole thing. But I made it work. Y'all, that cuts like butter. Was not in the mood to attempt it again on the back panels, so I decided to risk the puppy fur and move to the floor. Oh, beastie. Oh, Mr. Squish.
What are you doing?
Making pants. But I hadn't folded over my fabric quite enough, so the front layer was like 2 inches too short right at that middle diagonal point, and here's how over it I was. Oh. Don't care. Good times. Ow. Still don't care. It'll be fine. With 4 quarter circles cut out, I just need those other items, simple as always. 4 pockets, a back waistband, a front waistband, 2 sashes, and a little strip of material that will become my belt loops. Easy enough so far, right? Sewing pants together always boggles my brain at first, so I end up laying all the legs out on the floor to make sure I'm getting the right seams put together. I sewed each leg together on the inseam first, where I could just utilize that selvage, and then I French seamed the crotch seam front to back, so I kinda have that wrap pant style you see a lot these days. After checking to make sure everything seemed correct-ish and enjoying a moment of swoosh, I went ahead and finished all 4 outer edges with a simple rolled hem, mainly because fraying raw edges just stress me out. Also, it makes it easier to put together later on anyway, so you know, why not? For the front section, I kinda measured and kinda winged it to get those box pleats in and ended up with 1.5 inch pleats, which made my panel 15 inches across instead of the 16 of my actual waist. I think this is okay because this fabric actually has a lot of give, so when it's pulled tight and tied on, the front panel will stretch a bit, hopefully. Y'all, these things are gonna be giant. Once I sewed those pleats down, I decided to go ahead and move on with the front panel. So I attached the front waistband, then added the sashes on either side, sewed them closed inside out, turned them right side out, ironing all the way, because I am just so much more likely to iron these days now that I just have to turn my chair to get to it. Then 'twas some very persnickety top stitching on the waistband, only to realize I had missed a giant chunk of it on the inside and had to start over. But, we don't need to see that. Moving on. Remember when I said that the 15 inches would stretch so it would be fine? Lies! Like the silly little goose that I am, I totally forgot that no, it won't stretch because you sewed it onto a stable waistband with unstretchable straight stitches. Whoops! But it'll still be fine because here's where the front panel is ending, notably not the side seam. I also kind of forgot that I typically make each panel 18 inches instead of 16 inches so that they'll overlap a little bit on the sides. But here is where the back panel ends. I'm just not gonna gather it and it'll still cover. And the openings will be here in the front instead of on the sides, but it'll be fine. Everything is fixable! The pockets went on the sides of the back panel, very much in my normal style. There's nothing different about this style of pockets on the pants versus the skirt. My back waistband, which I thought I had made nice and extra big, was actually just barely long enough to fit across the top of the pants. Y'all, this is why I make everything too big. It saves my butt so frequently. I sewed some thin ribbon onto the ends of that waistband and got it top stitched down on the first try this time. Huzzah! Okay, y'all, despite my miscalculations, I'm really liking how these look. All I have to do is sew the legs together because they are currently split and then hem them, which like, why are they so long? But yeah, I think they worked. So let's move on to that second pair. So what did we learn from the first ones? As far as the split-sidedness goes, not much. It works. I mean, this is what Ash and I were talking about. We're like, it's not any surprise that split side pants work. Of course they work. Hakama have been around for a time period that I don't actually know. There's also like fisherman pants, I think from Thailand? There are examples of it throughout various cultures in history. So like, obviously split side pants work. What I learned with this particular construction is that my crotch was way too long. And that's totally fine for me on these big, wide-legged palazzo pants things. In this style, I don't want that. So we're gonna try a completely different method of crotch measurement, I guess. Design. So first up, the whole point of making a second pair was because I want to try the reversed method, which is actually historically the more common method for split side pants, putting the back panel over the front panel, theoretically making it then easier to go to the bathroom. So I thought I would revisit lacing. So there's the wide waistband with the visible lacing on the front. It's gonna have that same style of pockets because that was already more of a pants style pockets. People said they're called slash or slant pockets. Thank you for that info. I think I'll make these in sort of a pirate pant, or I guess you could say a jogger pant if you're a modern person, sort of balloony, and then come in to a cuff around the ankle. And I think I might do that as like a cuff that ties in sort of a little knot down there. So they are way more fitted and less fabric than the ones that I just made, but they're still not like these pants that I'm currently wearing. They're not slim fit. They're gonna be a little bit poofy. So really the only thing to figure out besides how to do a well-fitting crotch measurement is the gap on the sides. This was what I learned on my reverse split side skirt. You put the pockets in the front and now your gap is just here and you have no backing for it. I didn't mind so much on the skirt because I'm typically wearing like a long shirt or dress under it, so it's covering that anyway. And the type of fabric it was, it just didn't really fall open that much. For the future, just in case, I'd like to fix that on these. My thought is simple enough. You just take your normal pocket shape. So on the back layer of that pocket, you just extend it. Just kind of go like this, so that if that split comes open, you have a backing there, right? Simple enough, easy fix. That should totally work. Y'all, I've been so obsessed with my hoodie dresses that that's basically all I've been wearing this winter, but it's easiest to measure and try on pants if you're already wearing pants, so I've been trying to wear pants for this project. And I was like, I kind of forgot that I have all of these sweaters. And now I'm realizing that I also forgot that I like sweaters more in theory than in execution, kind of like tea and backpacking Europe. There is a lot of texture touching a lot of my skin right now. We persevere. But I wore pants because I have a new method of measurement that I want to try. I thought of this a while ago, and then I think somebody also, back when I made pants the first time, commented and was like, hey, you should try this. What if you just take a wire and you mold it to yourself, and then you take it off and you have a mold of your crotch? Saying the word crotch never gets any better. Like, theoretically, that would be perfectly your measurements and your shape, and you could literally just put it down and be like, boop, 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 and this is the shape it needs to be, right? We're gonna find out. So I got some thick as possible pipe cleaner from the craft store, which I think would work, but then I just so happened to be walking through the art store, Blick, the other day, and saw this wire, which is like much thicker and more stable, but also still easily bendable. So I think I'm gonna use this, but I think a giant pipe cleaner would work as well. Well, would work. We don't know if it's gonna work yet. In theory. Okay, so again, marking off my waist with elastic. So then I just wanna like smash it down to the shape of my butt, right? And then I think the important note here is to mark where the center seam is, because it's actually like right here, not here as you would expect. So I'm just gonna throw a piece of tape on it. Okay, so let's find out if that works. Armed with my lower torso cross section, I decided that since I don't have a ton of fabric this time, I'm actually gonna make a paper pattern, at least for the 2 leg portions. Gasp, I know. I'm still largely winging it on the rest of my measurements, but since the legs are going to be gathered into a cuff at the end, I can get away with my favorite thing ever, a general lack of precision. Up top, not so much. So even though I'm not much of a dart person, I decided to go ahead and stick some darts on both sides. It's kind of just a safety measure because I can adjust the size of those darts if the whole thing ends up being too big or too small. And then yeah, I just traced the shape of the wire thing, kind of shifting the line a bit in some places so it's not so curved. It seems like it'll work. Same thing on the back, darts, imprecision, all that stuff. One thing that's helpful and cool to see on the wire is that even though both ends were reaching my waistline when I had it on me, the back is actually about 1.5 inches taller than the front. And that's something you see a lot on pants patterns. The back piece slopes up from the side seam to the middle seam. This side of the wire was pretty significantly curved around my booty, so I really altered the line right there just to make it less drastic. But as far as the inner point goes, it looks to be right in the right place, right? Also, yes, I ran off the edge of the paper and I had to tape on some more. Planning ahead is not my strong suit. As far as the other pieces go, it's way more simple, no pattern pieces needed. We've got a rectangle for the back waistband, a longer rectangle for the front waistband, 2 smaller rectangles for the ankle cuffs, front pocket pieces, back pocket pieces with those extensions, a few inner pockets for those pockets, and then for funsies, I cut out some patch pockets to maybe sew onto the booty. I don't know if I'll use them, but we'll see. As before, I'm going to start by putting together the inseams and crotch seam of the pants before I even touch the darts and stuff. That way I can kind of pin it onto myself and see if it fits. Shall I commit to ironing? I should. I really should. And she promptly did not commit to ironing. Give it a second though, I'll get there in 3, 2, 1. So professional. All right, so theoretically, these should fit. I put on a less bulky shirt to see. So if I just put this panel where it should fall, minus the darts, that's the pocket opening, it's basically looking right. The only thing is, this edge is not quite reaching my side seam. And that's like the edge. That's not any seam allowance included. And then when you pull up the back, again, the crotch is pretty good, but again, we're not really reaching quite to the side seam. That is concerning. I think I just didn't make them wide enough for my hips. Whoops. I mean, luckily, there's always the option of like putting a strip of fabric down the side of a pant and calling it a choice. So I'm gonna get the darts put in because I do think my darts are correct. I'm gonna get the pockets put in and then we will reconvene and see if I messed up. And that is exactly what I did. Front darts, 1 by 4 inches, lovely. Then back darts, 2 by 5 inches, grand. And then those pockets. I'm not gonna go into too much detail here, because honestly, I just get tired of talking through the same pocket process over and over again. But for those extensions, I did just like a rolled hem so they have a clean edge. And then these babies are like purse pockets light. So on one side I have a phone pocket, and on the other side I have like a little things pocket, and then those got French seamed on, and tra-la, we're all good. Except for that whole not fitting thing. Okay, so again, the fitting is looking really good as far as like the front and the back. It's the sides. That's where it should go, and that's where it's pinned. Either way though, the front panel is staying exactly how it is. So I think I can go ahead and get the waistband onto that side. And then, yeah, I really think I'm just gonna cut out 2 long, maybe like 2-inch each strips of fabric and put them on the sides, and we'll call it a design choice. So I got the waistband on the front half. Not much of note about that, except, oh yeah, it was too short for some reason. Like it didn't meet in the back, and it should have overlapped. So my original plan of doing snaps or hooks and eyes is scrapped in favor of having this panel lace up too. Wahoo! Does that make the pants very difficult to put on? I plead the fifth. I did try lacing them up with elastic instead of cord in hopes that it would be able to stretch enough that I could put them on while it was still laced and tied. Nope. I'm probably gonna stick with the elastic anyway because it does make it really nice and comfortable to move in, but yeah, there's not nearly enough stretch there for what I was hoping. And we can really see now exactly how much extra fabric I'm gonna need on each side. It's like at least 3 inches. Good times. Also, am I totally gonna dump the whole ankle cuff idea? Because I'm kind of loving how these look like this. So I cut out some strips of fabric to cover that side gap and sewed them on there, and then I got that top waistband put on, got the eyelet holes, all of that stuff done, and voila! Well, we still have problems. Okay, so, we're almost done, and I'm just not really sure how I feel about these. I both love them and hate them at the same time. So we've got this on. I'm lacing it with a black ribbon, which I think is really cute. The back is not bad. Like, that's pretty well fitted, right? The only thing is, even after adding 3 inches to each side, they are still almost too small in the widest part of my hips. Like, this is gonna barely reach where it's supposed to be sewn down. And at this point, I'm not really willing to change that. So I'm just gonna sew it down. We're gonna go with it. If sewing the legs together makes it look weird, then I might go ahead and add the cuff, cause like, why not? But I'm probably gonna leave them how they are. Let's call it a day. Let's take a look at the final 2 products, and then we'll have a little chat about what worked and what didn't. Are you so pretty?
Are you the prettiest little puppy in the whole world?
Oh, Tommy. Okay, let's go. Oh, yes, you do. Surprise, I made a third pair. I made them completely off camera, and here's why. When I finished the gray ones, okay, bye. He's not interested in my story. When I finished the gray ones, because they didn't fit and they didn't work per se, I was just kind of in a funky place with the project as a whole. Like, I wasn't excited about it anymore. So I just kind of dove in with yet another fabric that, come back next week to find out where I got it. Wasn't gonna use it yet. Couldn't help it. But yeah, I didn't film it because like lately I've been putting a lot of pressure on myself when it comes especially to the split side garments. Not necessarily to get things right and make something that works, because the whole point of this channel is like, I don't know what I'm doing and mistakes are okay. But I think I put a lot of pressure on myself to tell you what I'm doing. But like, this was an experiment. I'd never done this before. I didn't know what I was doing with the pants. So I just needed to make the third ones off camera, and they worked real great. I have a lot of thoughts in general about all three. But first, I have a follow-up call with Ash to compare and contrast and see what we learned and where we succeeded and where we failed. How did it go?
Not bad. I think there's still some tweaks that can be made. I'll be honest, I was kind of expecting, because the skirts just work, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, how much harder can this be? Turns out really, like, quite a bit harder.
Yeah, the first one I made, I was like, okay, this is fine. Like, I made some design choices that didn't really work with like how I did the waistband, but it really didn't have anything to do with the fact that it was pants. But it's because I did it exactly like the skirt. So they're like big, full, I used a drapey fabric, but like you can see how much there is of it. It's a full circle with a half circle on each leg. Yeah, of course it works. And then I started making a more fitted pair.
I had a very similar experience. So like, I'm actually wearing these ones right now. So these guys, again, like same, just, I used just rectangles, pleated on both sides. They've just got two waistbands. They gape a bit at the side, but they're not too bad. And with that, yeah, I was like, okay, there's some like proportional differences that I want to make. You know, they came out too short and all that kind of nonsense, but they basically work.
Yeah. It's like,
and then I started trying to do something that wasn't massive.
So this one, I tried to do a pocket extension here to be a backing for that split. The problem here was I made it too big. So like, it really should stop like here, but because it's so long, it's actually going over my butt, but then it's a non-stretch fabric, so it's making it like pull up like that, and you get wrinkles all down the front.
I'll admit, I cheated a little bit. Instead of drafting my own pattern from scratch for the more fitted ones, I started by like pulling out a paper pattern I already had, but almost immediately it just started going a little bit wrong. I think maybe I got things a bit misaligned. So these, I don't know what I'm going to do with those.
You just gotta chalk it up till I learned some lessons, which is why I then was like, I need to make a third pair. Stuck with the whole, the back panel goes on top. It worked so much better. I did much less of an overlap here, so it's only got like an inch, and that keeps it from like buckling as much, but there's still like a little bit of covering on the gap.
Funny enough, I ended up with cropped ones as well, because I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. Let's just make
By
it
the third one,
shorter.
yeah. We're like, let's not use as much fabric this time.
But with this one, so I did the back going on first with just a little bit of an underlap. I left them really open, really far down. I think that's what's giving me the bubbling at the moment. I'm kind of intrigued to see if anyone else sort of picks it up and runs with it.
We got it started. How about you guys try now? Well, it has been a pleasure. It's been great to collab with you, and I'm glad that we got some different perspectives.
It's great seeing someone else tackle the same idea and come out with different ideas for how you can make it work.
I'm really excited to see your full video and see your whole process of it, so.
Oh, same.
Yay. Okay, so obviously we chatted a lot more than that. That was a very chopped up version again. So to go into a bit more detail here, starting with the first pair. Number one issue, which I already kind of talked about, but it isn't really an issue, is the crotch is way too long. The back of the pants kind of like wrinkle up oddly in the center, and I'm not sure if that's just because I was getting a lot of wrinkling on the seams of this fabric in general, or if it's because they're so full and that's just all the extra fabric. Because if you pull them kind of tighter over the booty, like a slim fitting pair of pants, it fits really nicely, but then when you let them go, it's just like a little lumpy in the middle in a weird way. Don't really know what caused that. The whole concept of making the front waistband wider so it would ruche down, total fail. It doesn't ruche down, it just clumps. I do like the belt loops, but if both of the waistbands were the same size, then they wouldn't cause the clumping. Ultimately, if you want a ruched waistband, I think you just have to ruche it yourself and sew it in place. Only other thing on this first pair is they are still too long, even with heels. They were so hard to hem. Not the actual sewing, I just did a little rolled hem and it was fine, but to try to get them all the same length because it's such a drapey, flowy material and because there's so much of it, like, ugh. Y'all, I've hemmed a lot of circle skirts now. These were giving me trouble. And then of course, there's the whole bathroom thing. Yeah, you gotta fully take these off to go to the bathroom. So not super convenient. These are definitely like dramatic going out pants. The fabric does feel amazing. Like the swoosh and the drape and the way it flows, oh, it's delightful. The gray pants, I'm really sad that they don't fit because otherwise they look really good. And I honestly thought that they would be really uncomfortable because of the whole not fitting thing, but y'all, like, I'm still wearing them. The waistband is so comfortable. So that elastic lacing up in the back, it's a pain in the butt to put on. It is not easy. But if you've got like a partner who's always around to help you get dressed, go for it. You could also just plan ahead and make it wider. Like if I had this much lacing out of elastic instead of this much, then I probably would have enough stretch. So ultimately, these just, they don't fit in the hips. Because they're pulling all the time, they're always gonna have that little buckle on the sides where the split is. So like, are they comfy? Could I wear them? Yeah, especially if you wear the blazer over it, which happens to cover up the little buckle on the sides. So on to that third pair. Here, because I went pirate pant version, as I meant to do on this, but I did not pattern correctly. I have that fullness again. They're not as full as my giant circle skirt pants, but they are full enough that the pockets can hold things without being tight up against your body, and the sides can actually overlap and not be pulling. I decided to have the front panel just tie on in the back again because tying is kind of the easiest thing to do behind your back that is like truly adjustable. And then I wanted to do lacing again on the front one, but I didn't really want to do the grommets, eyelets, so I made a bunch of, you know, the thin little straps and did my own lacing loops. That was really fun. I decided to put those in the cuffs as well. This is actually a two-way stretch knit material. So the cuffs could have just stretched up to my calf, but I wanted to make them even more adjustable and fun, so I put lacing in there too. The big thing in cutting out that I had to change for this was just widening everything. I was not going from my waist measurement to my hip measurement fast enough on this gray pair. And I wasn't actually reaching my hip measurement until like 10 inches down. My hip measurement hits like 4 inches tops below my waist. So like I'm 32 here. I'm not 42 down here, I'm 42 here, which means my pants have to angle out fast to accommodate that. Oh, so the wire thing, highly recommend. So on this pair, for a minute, I thought it was still wrong, but what I realized was that the shape was not wrong. I was just taking it from too high up. So technically on this pair, I still have a chunk of fabric in the crotch that's hanging down, but I realized that if I pulled my waistband all the way up here, the crotch fits perfectly. So this is telling me that I was just starting my measurement from the waist, and then I was legit cutting out my pants piece from that measurement and not accommodating the wide waistband I was gonna add onto it. So with that knowledge in hand, on the brown ones, I cut off, I think, 2.5 inches, and the crotch fits perfectly. This, I think, is so much easier than trying to do the measurements and the math to figure out your crotch shape. Go get yourself a big old pipe cleaner and make a mold of your crotch. That sounds like a totally different kind of project. Make a mold of your cross section, and there you go. Anytime you want to make pants, you have it ready to go. That was a lot of thoughts. Go forth, Make your own split side pants, your split side whatevers you want them to be. Go check out Ash's video, see what they made, get all of their advice. It was so much fun collaborating and knowing that somebody else was exploring this at the same time. So fun to bounce ideas off of each other. So thank you so much to Ash for joining me on this project. Later, taters! This fabric is a pain in my patootie. Oh, don't mind me. Ah. That was a fart. Y'all, sometimes I start filming and then realize I haven't like looked at my face yet today. Yep, there it is. Cool.